you come to me today on episode 2 of the Podfather.
So, my name is Carson Newman.
Tegan Ritter.
And Matthew Fisher.
And today we are going to be talking about the movie First Reformed. And it's pretty much a movie about a reverend who ends up going through an environmental and spiritual crisis.
Okay, well, I'll start us off. So, there are many known side effects for isolation according to cdc.gov. The main ones are depression, anxiety, like thoughts about hurting yourself, thoughts about offing yourself, and then other health risks. Do you believe that isolation helped contribute to the final outcome of the story for Reverend Toller?
I definitely think it was a big part of it is because when his son died, he cut off his relationship with everyone. We see, was that woman his ex-wife, or
No,
who was that woman?
Mary?
Mary?
No, not the other woman, or not that woman.
No, that was just like a
girl with the
fling.
glasses. Yeah, he pushed her away, and then he was just pushing almost everyone away and isolating himself. And I think that led to his mental state.
I didn't really interpret it as isolation completely because after his son died, he was working through the guilt of putting his son through that. And I don't think that isolation is the reason that we had the outcome that we did, because obviously he was still very close with Mary, and I wouldn't consider that isolation in itself. I think what triggered the final outcome of this movie is the initial conversation that Reverend Toller had with Michael, because Michael ended up asking Reverend Toller questions that he wasn't completely able to answer biblically. So, that pretty much, in my head, that led to complete hopelessness in Reverend Toller's mind, which is why I think that we made it to that outcome of the story.
I definitely agree. I think that initial conversations was what sparked it, but I also feel like the fact that he kept pushing people away at the end, he already was dealing with those thoughts of him not being able to explain this through God. So I feel like he was already battling with that in his head. But then as he pushed people away and continued to isolate himself more and wouldn't leave his house and got drunker and drunker, I feel like that made it it amplified all those feelings because it just he had no one to vent to or express himself to or talk to or just relieve any bit of that questioning or pain, and I feel like that's what drove him to do that at the very end.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that he was completely himself with Mary. He didn't really express himself, and he was just trying to be there for her as a reverend. And obviously he had his worldly desires with Mary, but those were never expressed. So I understand the isolation. And the fact, I think the biggest part of this movie is the journal, and that's where he was expressing himself, his true self. So, yeah, I actually changed my mind on that. I think, isolation does play a big part of it.
Yeah.
All right, my question comes from MDPI, an article called First and Second Generation Psychological Theories of Suicidal Behavior. And my question is, what specific reasons do you think drove Toller to the point of wanting to end his life?
So pretty much like we already talked about, obviously that initial conversation with Michael, that was probably the biggest trigger. How he pretty much figured out, he didn't figure out, but Michael was talking about it wouldn't be good to bring a baby into this world with the current state that it's in and what it will be in 50, not 50, did he say 18 years?
50.
He did say 50?
I think so, yeah.
And that pretty much in his mind triggered his guilt for sending his son to the war. So that was a big thought on his mind, and the question that Michael asked him, will God forgive us? That was something that was also just constantly in his head. And those are the two like biggest things for me that I think triggered the ending.
I think that like his alcoholism, that too, I felt like was really bad, and his illness as well, because I feel like he already knew he was dying because like what
Hmm.
happened? Did he have like intestinal cancer?
It was something along the lines of that. And
Yeah,
when he told him not to drink the alcohol anymore, like he kept drinking it, and we see that like pretty nihilistic behavior. Like he just
yeah,
didn't care at that point.
and I feel like also like his talk with Michael definitely pushed it, but I think him like his eyes finally were opened and he started realizing stuff and he realized that like the kind of world and the kind of world that his church was like living in, and he was just I think it just like hit him like a little too hard,
Yeah.
and I don't think he had very good coping mechanisms to be able to handle that.
Yeah. My source talks about psychodynamic theory, which is it states that the process starts with the loss of an object of love, which I think
Mm,
was his son. And when his son died, that's when he started spiraling into this. And then it also talks about hopelessness theory, where it's you're so hopeless that that's the only escape. And I think that started with his conversation of Michael, where Michael asked, "Will God forgive us?" And it was hopelessness for humanity in general. I feel like him uh, using the vest was kind of him trying to get into heaven by doing something to try and help the world, because if he did nothing, he thought everyone would be punished for eternity.
I don't necessarily think he was trying to get into heaven because in the Bible, um, offing yourself basically is one of the major sins. Like you have no redemption if you do that at all.
Yeah. I don't necessarily like I've looked into like YouTube analysis of this movie because like this is one of the movies that has had me think like quite a bit, and I still haven't came to like a complete conclusion as to why he tried to use the vest at the end of the movie. But in my head, the way I interpreted it, it was like he still had faith in God, and he was trying to punish the rest of the people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so my question comes from an interview from Roger Ebert. It was when he interviewed Paul Schrader, the creator of this movie. And my question is, does Reverend Toller become radicalized because he loses faith in God or because he has too much faith in God?
Oh, okay. I feel like he. I feel like it doesn't have like anything to do with God almost. Like I mean, he does have a lot of faith in God. That's what his entire like life is built on. But I feel like the reason he becomes like radicalized and loses all that faith is not because of God or his beliefs in God. It's because of humanity. He sees what humanity like what's happening with humanity and he can't do anything about it. But he still continues to pray to God every day and in a bunch of different ways. So I don't think he loses faith in God. I think he loses faith in himself and the world around him.
Yeah, something along those lines is what I was going to say. Is that I think he thought that God had lost faith in all of humanity because of what they've done to the environment, and it was too late for them to be forgiven. And I think that's what radicalized him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of like I was saying earlier, it's a little hard for me to connect all the puzzle pieces in this movie because it's so like in depth. But to me, I think that he didn't lose faith in God, but he was at a point of complete despair and like hopelessness that he felt as though he had to punish the world, kind of like how we were saying in the discussion, how he used the barbed wire as a representation of the crown that Jesus wore, and that was his way of like sending a message to humanity.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely true. Okay, what are our final thoughts on this movie?
This movie had so much to think about. I'm just like constantly thinking back to this movie all the time.
Yeah, I can't really put my final thoughts together yet because I'm still thinking about it constantly. So I'm honestly just trying to connect the puzzle pieces at this point. But so far, this is my analysis.
I didn't mind this movie. I almost fell asleep during it, and that's bad, probably because I'm just tired. But it was quite boring at the start, I'm gonna say, and then like at the end was very good. And then has made me think a lot, but it wasn't too bad.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
That it was boring from the beginning, but that's only because for me at least I wasn't completely paying attention to each and every word of the dialogue. And once I started to do that, it felt so like real to me. It like as soon as Michael brought up the topic of like is it morally correct to bring a baby in this world with the current state that the world is in, that's what really drew me in. And I wish I was paying attention before that so that maybe there's a chance that I could connect all these puzzle pieces. So I might have to watch it again.
Yeah, I think Inception was a more entertaining movie, but I think this one has like so much more stuff to think about. It
Yeah,
goes so much more in depth.
and it has a lot to say about humanity as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we all enjoyed the movie pretty much.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Podfather Part 2, and join us again on the Podfather Part 3.